Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is One Day Today. We are on episode 90, now a year strong into our virtual stage. And what a year it has been. We've seen the world tilt off its axis. We've seen people fall down. We see people get back up stronger. And it's something, to observe humanity, and individuals, facing, the struggles that this world has gone through, but to see the beauty that comes out of the struggle is really what the stage is highlighting. It's just the people who are just up to beautiful things. I wouldn't even say despite. I would say because of the struggles, that our light can shine. And it's human. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Humans are like diamonds. It's under pressure that our light can shine. And I'm very excited about our two guests today because they are very much testaments to that, and it's really it's exciting for me every week to be hosting this because I never know what we're going to get, but I always know there's something beautiful that opens up, and just the stories that that we individually go through, and the things that that maybe knock us off our horse, the things that leave us feeling lost and scared and alone and fearful. It's in those struggles and overcoming them that we discover something deeper, something bigger, something beyond, beyond the limitations of being in the circumstances of fear and of survival. And that's what we celebrate here is, the people who are doing beautiful things, despite what's happening in the world. And I'm very thrilled and excited to have both of our guests today. I'm going to jump right into it. First, just welcome our co-host, Matthew. Feels like it's been a while, Matthew, but how are you doing today, brother?
It does feel like it's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm doing good. Just chilling, doing a little floor shopping for little sister. We're getting ready to remodel the bathroom. So, daily life, little things going on. And it's funny, it's the little things that have felt really important over the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. Um, like I don't know if you've ever noticed this or experienced this, but speaking of struggle and the coming out strong on the other side of it, um, there are more and more and more. What I'm noticing in my own experience is if I lose awareness, if I lose presence, if I what's another way to put it? If I stop really fully being present in this body for any amount of time, like it doesn't matter how short, it's like the consequences are just severe. Like I come back and there's just this wall of anger and sadness and frustration and depression because I've done it again. I've abandoned myself again, and that is one of my core issues. Is being abandoned, feeling like I don't belong, which I know you resonate with really strongly. And so it's just been catching the little things that trigger me, uh, and then noticing when I come back, like how awful it feels not to be present.
Yeah, totally. I can relate. Over the last week, I've had a lot of victories, but a lot of breakdowns, and I've had that same experience where I've been pulled out of the present moment and into my own, despair, seeking for something to feel bad about because things aren't, just like our identity or our ego or our thoughts will constantly, you know, be there to bombard us if we let them. I'll get pulled into just into that fear of, like you're saying, not belonging or not being enough. But I've had I've had a lot of things open up in this last week of just seeing who I've been in the face of that. Because I've taken on a lot this last week, and some things like fell through the cracks, and I'm like, this morning I woke up and was like, oh, I have this to do, I have that to do, I have this to do, and I found peace with it somehow. Like I wasn't, even with all the things that I haven't done, like I because I've been so busy last 2 days, I hadn't exercised, but Today I woke up with like a different experience. It's like some things didn't work out how I wanted to, but it was like, but nothing's wrong. Everything is exactly where it needs to be. It's always the present moment's always available. There's nothing I need to do to be enough. There's nothing I need to know where I need to go. It's just sitting in that peace that when I'm far away from it, it feels like it's so foreign. But when I'm back in it, it's like I'm back home. And it's like it's so funny how I'll be in that fullness of the present moment, and then I'll forget when I go away from it, I'll forget how peaceful and how full I am when I am there. And it's like that. It's that constant reminder to remember the present moment and remember that's all there is.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's it's so simple, yet somehow we seem to make it so complicated. Like I know I did. I, I for me, the most simple way I've ever heard it put is be here now.
Mhm.
And that's all there is to it. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing that needs to be done. It's just be here now. And like you said, and in that moment, in that being here, the fullness of peace and comfort and calm and just groundedness that exists in that is beyond any words I've ever come up with to explain it.
Beautifully said. It's something that words can only point to. It's an experience of that the depth of that fullness and peace that when I'm in it, I never want it to go away, and then when I'm out of it, it's like it's never existed. It's like, where did it go? So I want to now welcome. I'm really excited to invite our first guest to the stage. Please welcome to the stage, Erica Wilson. Welcome,
Thank,
Erica.
thank you, Abram. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's such our honor and pleasure to have you. I'm really excited for you to be with us. So thank you for being here.
I'm just excited to be with you all and anything that I could do to share the things that I've been through. I love doing it.
Mm. Well, I'm excited. You shared with me some of your stories, so we're just if you're ready, we're gonna jump right in. So, Erica, the stage is yours.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the One Way Project. I am awesome. I'm elated to be here to share my story. I am Erica Wilson, the author of It Had to Happen. It's called My Journey, My Pain, and My Purpose. And It Had to Happen is a book that I wrote. It's a memoir about my life, and it's telling all of the it's that had to happen to birth me for my purpose. So I want to start off with saying that I was born Erica Wilson in Miami, Florida. I have two siblings, and at the time, mom and dad was married, but I lost my father at the age of 5. He was called home to glory, and it seemed like that, after I lost my father, I started losing people. I think like every 3 years it was in death. And that started like at a young age. And then by the time I was 10 years old, something very devastating happened to me. I was raped at 10 years old, and I didn't understand why. Um, this was happening to me. From 10 years old, I became this angry person, Abram. I was just so angry at 10 years old, all the way up until I was like maybe 15 and maybe even longer than that. But, I was just this mean individual. And I like to say I was bleeding on people that didn't even cut me. And like they say, hurt people hurt people. And during this time, I just felt like I had absolutely no control. If anyone tried to make me do anything, it would trigger the rape. And then by the time I was 15 years old, I was pregnant. I had my first son, um, a miracle child. I had him at 6 months. Um, 1 pound, 12 ounces, and I had him at home. But I just want to tell you how good God is. I hated men after that happened to me. Here it is, my father is gone. I was losing people here and there. Now I'm a rape victim. So I just literally like hated men. And God has his way of doing things. He blessed me with a young man. And that's where I found to love again because I didn't love anything. I don't even think I loved myself at that time. So from that point on, I didn't know why all these things was happening to me, but they were happening. And here I go at the age of 19 on my second child, which I carried long term, I mean, all the way full term. And he was 8 pounds, 9 ounce. Um, so here I am years later as a single mother. Okay. Huh. Where do I start? As a single mother of two young men, um, being though what happened to me, I kind of overshadowed my children, overbearing, was kind of, overbearing with them. Didn't want them to go really nowhere if I didn't have my eyes on them because I didn't want anything happening to them, like what happened to me. So I didn't really hold down jobs because if I couldn't be home when they get home from school, it was just like, oh, no. I can't work for you because I need to be home, I need to be there with my children. So I struggled. Um, Fast forward, I struggled for a while until one day I became homeless and I had to sleep in my car, even though it was only for 2 nights. I did sleep in my car at a shelter. Not a shelter, I'm sorry, at my storage. And I didn't let the kids stay with me. I did let them go stay with their father for those 2 nights because I just could not bear them being there with me going through that. So, I mean, becoming homeless, it kind of woke me up a little bit and saying, like, man, anything can happen at a drop of a dime. So I never questioned God on why I had to go through any of this. I just knew that I had to go through it. I didn't know that I was being birthed for my purpose because I didn't find Christ until I didn't give my life to Christ. I always knew him, but I didn't give my life to Christ until I was like in my late 20s, I want to say. And all of these events that were happening was, back to back. It was just like I never got a break. And um I thought that I kept it away from my children, didn't know that they knew exactly what, we were going through until my son and I had an interview one day and he stated that he would come home and he would see the eviction notices on the door. Um, and I knew like around Christmas time, I knew that I couldn't give my kids the things that they deserved, which I thought as a parent, and all the things that they wanted. And it kind of made me feel really bad as a mother that I can't provide for my children how I should. Um, I don't like to stay on the pain too long because I like to tell the goodness of it or how to overcome it. So moving fast forward, I 2000, I want to say 14, I may be off a little, 2014, 15. Um, God blessed us. My son wasn't he's a football player and I had both of them was football players at the time, and Alan ended up going to the NFL. So when he made it to the NFL, he didn't know the same, like during that time he had made it to the NFL, I was evicted from my place. I never told him. So I'm evicted from my place again. And here it is. I couldn't bear to tell my son, but I had to end up telling him. And then here it is. He called me to visit him and gave me keys to my place, which I now reside here in Jacksonville. So once we were blessed to be in this position, I told God, I said, what it is that you want me to do? What would you have me to do? You know? And when he gave me the vision, it had to happen was birth to from 88 Blessings, which is my nonprofit organization for single mothers, underserved youth, as well as college students. And the reason why the single mothers is dear to me is I am a single mother. The reason why underserved youth is dear to me is because that was once my children. And the reason why college is dear to me is because I was a high school dropout. I skipped over that part, but I was a high school dropout. But I always told myself once I had my children that before my kids graduate, I will make sure that I have my high school diploma. And I was forced to leave school because I had my son, and he was a premature baby, so I spent most of the time at the hospital with him. But again, I like to focus on the good times. So I did go back to school and I got my high school diploma. My kids and I, we were all in college together. So that's why college is near, college kids is near and dear to me. I did go back to school. And like I said, my kids and I, we were all in college together, which done my heart great. So here it is, birth and 88 blessings. Okay. I tell God, whatever it is you give me to do, I'm going to do. So out of all of my the rape, I didn't mention the robbery. I did the homelessness, all of those, it had to happen to birth me for my purpose today. And that's why we have 88 blessings. And we're here in Miami, we're in Jacksonville, we've been in Texas, Tennessee. I'm talking about LA. It's really growing. And I'm looking forward to go national because that's what God told me. So out of all of my that had to happen, it birthed me for my purpose today. And that's why I'm here with you, Abram and Matthew, sharing my testimony. And I pray that I touch someone out there to know that it had to happen. But do not let the it stop you. Continue to press on because you're definitely going to have a testimony out of that. Everything that we go through in life happened to us, but not for us. It happened for someone else so we can share our testimony. So Abram, thank you so much for having me. I am so honored to be here with you and Matthew.
Thank you so much, Erica. Your story. So I really just am inspired by your courage and your taking all the things that happened to you and just shining a light for all of us to it's jaw dropping the amount of courage that, I mean, how you speak about the past and all the things that happened to you, and just hearing your calmness and you're overcoming that pain and making it into something so beautiful for others to grow and to be uplifted. It's just, that you are like the reason that we have this stage. Like your story is just so inspiring. And so just thank you, first of all, for your courage and just who you're being in the world. It's you are such a light. Your ability to take your circumstances and to just channel them into something so beneficial for us all. So thank you, first of all.
You're most welcome. And like you guys spoke about earlier, when you spoke about that peace, when you find that peace, you don't want anything to disturb that peace. And it's just when you're a light for someone else, and I'm just going to speak about some small things because Matthew, you touched on it. And I'm going to share two things and then I'm going to give it back to you guys. But I have to share this because this just happened to me. Here it
Please.
is. Yesterday, I went out to pick up some mail from the post office. And here it is. I stopped to Dunkin' Donuts because I was being bad and I wanted two glazed donuts. And I get to the window and the guy says, "Here you go. Don't worry about it." So I'm looking, I'm like, huh? He said, "Ma'am, don't worry about it. I got it." I couldn't do anything but cry, Abram and Matthew, because something so small blessed my heart so big. A total stranger poured into me, you know, and that touched me so deeply because I'm the giver, I'm used to being the one to give. And then here it is. I was supposed to stop to my favorite cookie place here in Jacksonville called Cookie Bouquet. And I was supposed to go yesterday, but it was really hot out and the pollen is really bad here in Jacksonville. And I couldn't breathe, so I came on home. So this morning I went to get my hair done. And here it is. I stopped to Cookie Bouquet and I was speaking to the owner. And I have an amazing young baby here, baby Jackson, who has DIPG, which is a form of brain cancer. And he was diagnosed at 3 years old, I'm sorry. And now he's 5 years old. single mother raising him, and she do have a job, but she was laid off without pay. So, and right now the child is in hospice. But I was speaking to the owner and asking about donations, and this lady just went to bawling, crying. Her son just had a liver transplant last night, and she couldn't be there to be with her son, but God placed me right where he wanted me today. If I would have went yesterday, I wouldn't have the experience that I had today. So I sat there. She did give us a donation, but most of all, was so near and dear to me is I was able to pour into her. I prayed for her before I left, and she was bawling. But if I did went yesterday, I would have missed the opportunity for today. So it's the small things like that that gets me and make me, feel good about what it is I do. So I just had to share those two things.
And that's just it, isn't it? Like I don't know if this is your experience with it, but like for me, when I'm in that calm place, that peaceful place, that presence, decisions seem to just happen. It's not like I'm logically trying to figure something out, but like just decisions feel more appropriate. Like it feels more appropriate to turn left instead of right
Right.
for whatever reason. And following that, it leads to those little moments, like you just said, and like I call them synchronicities, like just little. And as long as I'm following those, like,
Mhm.
or not, let me rephrase. As long as I'm in that peaceful place, as long as I'm in that presence in this body, like just really holding that calm, those synchronicities grow and grow and grow and grow.
Mhm. I totally agree. Because when you have so much noise, you can't hear anything. But when you're in a still place, when God have you still, you can hear because He have time where He can use you in that still place. So it's like in that still place, He's showing you that by placing other people in your life who's dealing with something way more worse than you are, here it is. It's like, God, like, I'm so sorry for, having this temper tantrum, because that's what I call it, or this pity party, and someone else is going through something far more worse. And like I spoke about in the green room, that's therapy for me. It's therapy for me because when I see that I can see a smile on someone else's face by something that I did. Well, not well, God used me to do. We're all on borrowed time, Adam and Abram and Matthew. So why not use it to be a willing vessel and bless those? Because when you pour on good ground, the seed may be small, but the harvest is so big. So that's one of the things we have to know. So on good ground.
I love that. I love that. The seed may be small, but the harvest is so big, and it's. I
Yes.
love the analogy of seeds for like what you're talking about, because it's like, because everything we do in the stillness in the present, or the lack of stillness in the present moment, is a seed. Everything we, you know all the energy we exert, and what we do, it plants. It could be seeds of love. It could be seeds of compassion. It could be seeds of laughter, of wonder, of joy, of beauty, or it could be seeds of resentment and seeds of bitterness, or seeds of fear. And it's like
Right.
what we water is what grows.
That's right.
And what I hear and what I see, and how I hear and listen to you, is that everywhere you go, you have a garden around you, and it's like there's seeds everywhere. And it's beautiful, and it's inspiring to be in your presence, because there's a warmth to your presence, and to your being. And it's very it's so, like, again, your courage is just, it's inspiring, because you're taking things that maybe weren't pretty at all,
Right.
and you're still planting those seeds of beauty, and you're still planting those seeds of love, and you're paying for those blessings, that that is transformation. That is an embodiment of just of love. I'm just, it's just such a, it's beautiful to hear you share, because it's like, it's for anybody who go through some of the things that you've gone through, who might be even too afraid to even talk to anyone. Hearing you talk about it, I just know, gives them courage and gives them hope to overcome what they're dealing with. And but what I also love about what you created was it had to happen. I think that is such a powerful practice to like I feel like our ego or our flesh or our shadow, whatever word you want to use, we want to resist the things that happen to us that were bad. We want to say like, oh, if only that did it. We myself included, we always play a game of shoulda, coulda, woulda. Like, I wish that could have happened. I wish I did this. I wish I did that. But you're like negating that. It's like, no, like it had to happen. And maybe it was traumatizing. Maybe it was scary. Maybe it was one of the most hardest things I've ever been through. But it allowed me, or it allows you, to plant those seeds in the face of whatever ugliness or perceived ugliness the world puts in our path. We still have that choice to plant the seeds of beauty and plant the seeds of love, and that's what I see, exactly what you're doing. And it's just it's about, I want to ask you, like, it had to happen.
Yes.
What do you say to somebody who might be going through or overcoming or facing a traumatic past or experiences of their life, whether it happened yesterday or 10 or 20 years ago? Like, what do you say to somebody who is trying to come to terms with that, like that very conversation? Like, what do you say to somebody who's not sure it had to happen, don't want to believe it had to happen?
Right.
What do you say to someone who's facing that?
I would say first thing first is you have to get to know God, because He's the only one that's going to help you through it. And don't question why it had to happen. Just know that there's some good out of the bad, that everything that we go through in life, out of bad things, something good is definitely coming out of it. Like I say, it had to happen to us, but not just for us, for somebody else. And as you spoke about, hearing my story, some people don't know how to tell their story. So once they hear me speak about the things that I've been through and how I overcame them, they tell me about the things that they're dealing with. So, whether, it's how can you say it? It's just so great to know that these things happened to me and I'm not bitter. I didn't understand them. You might not understand them, but just know that you have to get into a place that kind of gets some. Uh, I talk to God like I'm talking to you and Matthew right now. I have a conversation literally. It frees me. If I could just talk about it and get it out, I go to my closet, wherever, if I'm in my car, wherever it is, I talk to God just like I'm talking to you all. So you have to be able to speak about it, number one. See, I never spoke. I probably could have got some help being a single mother, but I didn't want to feel like anyone was giving me a handout. So I dealt with the things on my own, So just be encouraged, seek God first, put Him first, and then He'll make everything else a smooth sailing.
Yeah, you just pointed to something that I feel is very pertinent to a lot of people's situations, including my own sometimes, which is the things we don't do out of fear of being judged.
Right.
And like like you just said, like there might have been 100 different opportunities that you had going through all this that you didn't take because you were scared of what someone else might think or how like
Mhm.
you it would make you look or whatever. And that's something that seems to be very, very common in this world right now. Like it's something I grew up with. So many opportunities. Like I could look back and think, I can't even imagine how my life would have been different if I had realized that what other people think of me is none of my business 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. You know, um, so like that's something I wanted to tease out. And then uh, you said something that really brought it home to me. Like it really does seem to come down to perspective. In those moments
Mhm.
when we recognize that it could always be worse. Like we were talking about this
Yes,
backstage
sir.
before the show
Right.
with your friend who has the 5 year old who was diagnosed with cancer. Um, like seeing other people's journey is something that has knocked me out of my own head and shown me that it could be worse. Like it can always be worse. I wonder if you would speak a little bit more to that. Like just was there any particular event that really stood out when before you start writing the book, before you got to this place where you're at now, where it kind of like kicked you out of that victim mentality that so many people seem to get trapped in.
I want to say, when I had my children, I had to lead by example, and I didn't want the curse to fall on them. With this victim mentality. I like to tell people that I'm not a rape victim. I'm a rape overcomer. You know, um, I don't want to sit there and say, "Well, this happened to me," because you hear so many people say, um, "I'm this way because this happened to me." You choose. Everybody have a choice. You choose what and who you want to be, and you're not defined by the things that happen to you. You know, you have to be in the place where you just love you. I told you, Matthew, I didn't love myself for a long time. All these things was happening to me, and I didn't love myself. I said I did, but did I really love myself? No, I didn't. And that's the thing. You have to love yourself. Once you love yourself, then people will gravitate. They pick up. People pick up off of your. I like to say spirit. And I thank God He blessed me with the spirit of discernment, you know. But at the same time, you have to get in a place where you love yourself. You don't take care of yourself, nobody else is going to do that for you. And you have to know that the enemy comes for the mind first. So if he get that mind, he have everything else. So what I do, I like to pray for my mind. God, just protect my mind, protect my thinking, protect my speaking, because what you give off is what you're going to get back. So I just want you to be encouraged and know that everything that you went through or probably going to go through, it had to happen. Just because I'm in the situation where I am now, people think I don't go through things. Abram, Matthew, I drown my pillow at night sometimes. I literally drown now. So it's not saying that you'll never go through anything. It's not saying that once you give your life over to Christ, it's just saying that you'll be able to deal with it better. Some things that shake you. Do I get a little discouraged sometimes? Absolutely. I just came from a place, I was in a bad space 4 months ago, no, 2 months ago for 4 long months. And I didn't see, all I kept saying, Lord, I thank you. Lord, I thank you. And now the situation is amazing. I can't even speak about it, but it's just, that's where you have to be to know that you're coming out. You're more than enough. You get in that mirror, you tell yourself, I am enough. I am more than. Speak to yourself. Speak to yourself. I will encourage you to speak to yourself daily. Do it. Do it.
That's so beautiful, and it points me to something that's kind of just reminded me of something I read recently. In the book, like the author was saying, one of the hardest things for us to do is to accept being loved,
Yeah.
and he was saying, the way we love is the way we let God love us.
That's it.
And I think it's interesting because it's like we always resist. We resist love from others, but from ourselves. And it's like the way we let God, or whatever word we use to describe something bigger than ourselves. The way we receive that love is the way we also love in the world and love ourselves. And I just heard that in what you were sharing, because you not only let God love you, you share that love abundantly, and it's clear in just your speaking, and in just your you just in all the things you've been through, and even when you still have obstacles, as you're human, and we all do, but you don't be your pain, you see your pain, and you're like, well, there it is, and you don't keep it to yourself, you don't like bubble up, you don't like, you release it, and you just let God love you. And I think that's such a beautiful, and that's a beautiful thing to embody, and I'm just inspired by you, and I just really, really appreciate your energy, your presence, your courage again is just so abundant, and it's contagious. So thank you so much, Erica, for being with us.
I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate it. And that's what you have to do. Adam, Matthew, you said it. Don't let fear get you. Don't let fear rob you of so many different things. Uh, it will rob you. I'm telling you. Don't let fear set in. You have to tell fear bye bye. I'll let you play around for a little bit, but bye bye. You have to go.
Yeah, fear, like as I kind of went through these experiences myself, fear actually became a bit of a guide. Like it was those
Yeah.
moments that I recognized that I was incredibly terrified of what could come next, that actually became the most transformative experiences if I actually went into them instead of running away from them.
Mm.
And so like that, like I don't know that fear has ever gone away from me. Like it's always there, but I've learned to recognize that particular type of fear. Like I feel it in my belly, and it's just
Mm.
like this. Oh, okay, that I'm scared because that's the next big change,
Mm.
and
Well, I
I'm
want to
scared.
tell you this. Be careful what you speak. Don't say fear is always there. Don't
Oh yeah, no,
confess that, you
yeah.
know.
It's just in my experience, it hasn't gone away completely yet. Like I'm
Mhm.
open to the possibility that it can, and that'd be awesome. But at the same time, I've made friends with it as well. So
Mm.
it's like I kind of appreciate it in a way because it has become that guide for me.
Wow.
Um, and then the other thing, and I don't feel like anything applies to all situations. And I like
Right.
this is such a cliche, but what you were talking about like having to come back and love yourself, like
Mhm.
that is one of the few things where I can honestly say it actually feels like faking it till you make it works.
Mm. Really?
Yeah, it's a weird thing to say, I know, but it's like there was like there was this really kind of dark time in my past where before I could even get to the point where I actually did love myself, I had to first admit and accept that I actually hated parts of myself. And it wasn't until I was able to accept that, and then the constant like you said, being in the mirror and like actually repeating these mantras and like coming back to it, like I didn't actually feel them in the beginning, but the more I said them,
Mhm.
like the more real it became, and the more my life shifted, and the more my viewpoint shifted to a point of like, yeah, okay, yeah, I do mean this time. Like, and
Mhm.
I actually I love myself. That's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah. The trauma, the things that happen to us kind of, make fear set in. And sometimes I get a little fearful, I must say. But you have to just tell it bye bye. It just have to go. We can't sit there and dwell in it. It's so much great things out here that God have, you know, and He using us. We're all on borrowed time. So, do you want to just live, or do you just want to exist, or you want to live this life God has given us? And if you want to just exist, you're going to let fear stay there. But if you want to live this life, God, we can't worry about what others say about us because look what they did to Jesus. We just have to know that I love me. You're either going to love me, like me, or just leave me alone. Any of them. Which one do you choose? Because I love me, and a person can
Right.
tell when you love yourself.
Right. And just
Yeah.
applying what you're saying I mean, what you're saying about fear. It's like applying your principle of it had to happen. It's like, that works with fear and pain, because
Right.
fear and pain are ultimately there to teach us something. And it's an
Hmm.
opportunity. We can dwell in it, or we can see where there is to grow, and where there is to transform, and where there is to see the illusion, because it's only there for us to see what's beyond it.
Right.
And it's I got this there's a video of I think Will Smith, he does skydiving, and he's talking about like how that moment when he jumps out of the plane, and how afraid he is, and how terrifying it is, and then when he finally does it, leaps, he like made the discovery that the most beautiful things in life are on the other side of fear. And I think there's so much power in that, because you don't want to believe, from looking at fear from the inside of fear, it's like, I don't want to jump into that. That sounds awful.
Yeah.
But when you actually do it, it's like, I'm free. And that was all just a bunch of
Just
made up illusions.
so true. Like I could have been did that, you know.
Yeah,
Here it is.
right.
You really, and it's the little thing that sits on your shoulder and say you better not. But then you
Hmm.
think about, you know, the beauty of it. Like you said, it's the beauty of, you know, overcoming that fear, and then it begins to be easier and easier and easier. And it's the
That muscle.
hardest thing that we think, but like I said earlier, hearing other people's stories, you're like, okay, are you really having a pity party right now? Do you not see what other people are going through and they're walking around? We go out and serve the homeless. I never seen so many smiles on people's faces who have nowhere to go to lay their head. So just think about that. There's always someone out there that's worse off.
Hmm. It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so it's what's amazing is you know people that have like the least usually are the ones that
Yeah.
give the most. And one,
Hmm.
it's fascinating to me that the strength of the spirit, like people that people will shrug off and just as poor, or homeless, like you were, or just we'll
Hmm.
shrug them off. It's like, oh, they're just what we'll shrug them off. But like when you really get to know those people, you really like, there's such a richness in
Right.
people with so little. And I think
Hmm.
it's just amazing. Thank you again, Erica. We're gonna check back with you, Erica, at the end of the episode. But thank you so much for being here. And again, you're just such a beautiful spirit, and it just radiates through the screen. And I just appreciate you sharing and being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And just checking in with everybody, I want to take this moment to invite you to share your gift on the stage. This is why we have this space. It's for you to share your experiences. What have you been through? What in your life have you faced and overcome? What have you been through that you found something deeper, found yourself? What did you what happened? Did something happen that left you feeling alone, afraid, lost, scared? You know, there's something that you overcame to let you see the illusion of that, but also see what was deeper beyond that. What was the beauty that you found on the other side of your fear? That's what this stage is for. It's for you to share the beauty and the gift that you are, and that's why we're here, is to share your gift. And our mission here at One Day is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. That's one story, one share, one conversation at a time. Now, I'm very excited to welcome our next guest. She is a poet, and I will let her speak and introduce herself. But please welcome to the stage, Antoinette Franklin.
Hello there. I'm grateful and happy to be here with you. I'm very
Welcome,
excited about
Antoinette.
this. Hello, hello. How are you, Matthew? Great to see both of you young men.
Thank
I
you.
am a poet and I'm an author and an educator, and I love teaching. And I always tell my students I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to make a whole lot of money. Ha ha ha. But I love teaching, and it's very inspirational, and it's great to be able to lead people into something else. And as the lady said, I am a single parent myself, and I retired in 2017. I worked at Kelly at Lackland Air Force Base, and I was an English as a second language instructor. And I teach at the Carver Library. I teach a creative writing class there. And I began writing when I was 6 years old. I wrote a poem for my mother, and she asked if I'd copied it out of a book. And I said, oh, no, I wrote it. So I think I might have been in the third or fourth grade, and the teacher asked us to write a poem. So that was my assignment. And I was really excited about it because I love to read. I love English history, and science were my favorite subjects, and I couldn't stand math. But I taught a GED for a while at one time as well. But I began to write this poem, and I called it, it was about I considered the storm that was covering the city to be a dragon, and I didn't know what a dragon was, but you could see the darkness that was covering the city, and then all of a sudden there were so many lightning bolts coming out. So that was my imagination. And when I was so excited when I got to school the next day, I went to Holy Redeemer Catholic School. That was an all-black school. We were all segregated at that time, but they didn't integrate everything until 1968. So I'm 66 years old, and I'm grateful to be alive and well. But I read my poem, and I was so excited, and I thought the teacher was going to like it. And she told me that she was going to punish me because she knew that I had copied that out of a book. And the kids laughed. Oh, they laughed. It was so, nobody likes to be laughed at. So I learned to kind of keep my things to myself. And she stood me in the corner. And of course, when the day was over, I went to my mother. She picked me up from school and she said, "Well, honey, how did your day go?" I told her, I said, "Well, mother, she didn't like it and she punished me. She stood me in the corner and she told me that she knew I had copied it." And that made my mother very angry because she had watched me write the poem at the kitchen table. And she went back and she got after the teacher. And she said, "Don't you ever do that to my child again. My child wrote that poem. She did not copy anything." So when you go through all of this, and then when I got to high school, I had another teacher that was real excited about everything I did. So she liked it. But when I got to college, my college professor told me I couldn't write. So we were back at that same level again. I wouldn't share anything unless it was with my family, with my mother, with other people that were interested. So, long story short, and all of that, I have written quite a bit and I have encouraged people. And I've had a disappointment because I was working on a PhD and had some problems with that, but I'm trying to get that back to where I can get that taken care of. So I've been very angry, very distracted. And I usually go to one of the parks or two of the parks. I like Brackenridge Park. I have a special place. And then I go to King William Park. I love the trees and I love to watch the squirrels and just sit there and rest and recuperate and write. And that's what I really love to do that. That's one of my favorite things. I have lots of books that I have written 10 books, and with the classes that I've been teaching, my students have gained a great deal of knowledge, hopefully from me. And we share all of these type of things. I said, "Well, what happened? How did this happen? What happened to you?" And I have become more closer to God. I was always with God, but I became very angry and disappointed when my mother had cancer and she died. And I told God I wasn't going to read the book anymore. I was not going to read. I read in church. I read the scriptures for the church because I'm Catholic. And I told him I wasn't going to do it. And why did I do that? He gave me a good spanking. And by the time I got to getting spanked, I said, "Okay, I got it." And I had said that in front of the priest, and he said, "Oh, no, no, you just don't talk like that. I'm going to pray for you." And Father Fitzgerald did, and I believe that he prayed for me. And a lot of people have prayed for me, and I thank God that I was saved. And I try to give that the things that I've received, I've tried to give those things back because it's very difficult. When you look at the world that we're living in nowadays, it's so much hate, it's so much envy, so much anxiety. And I love my daughter dearly because she's always been such a positive influence in my life. And she said, "Well, Mama, grandmother wouldn't want you to do that." And I'm like, "Oh, good grief. Here we go." So being close to God and trying to get yourself back to God, always remember I can do all things through God who strengthens me. That's one thing that I try to, when I'm going through my pity party, I try to get through it so I can get to the other side and remember what needs to be done and said. Because somebody needs something. And as Erica stated, there are other people out there that are having even worse times. They don't have anything. What do they have? And I have all things, and I can just get there and take care of that. And that's the most important thing that anyone can remember. And you would be surprised that a kind word will help anybody along the way. It makes them feel better and that someone cares something about them. Because when you feel that don't nobody care and nobody's interested and they don't want to hear anything, any of your problems, then that's when you start trying to make things better for your life. And writing is the most important thing that I can do, and it's very relaxing. And sometimes there's some things that I've written that I might not really want to share with folks because I really don't want them to know exactly how I feel about some things. But that might be something that might help someone else. Even though it's been a bad situation. Well, did you really do that? I can't believe you. Yeah, that happened. Those, like she said, those things happen, and you have to make the best out of anything that comes along and try to do the best that you possibly can. And I've written all different. I try to write about everything, and that's what I tell the students. You need to write. Don't just write about. I've written some religious stuff. I've written some funny things, some things were a little racy, and I thought, well, I might not want to share that, but then somebody would appreciate that, and they would get that. And I do have a poem that I found the other day, and I rewrote it, and it was written in 2018. I try to date all of the things, and it's called "We Share the World." We share the world with many nations, cultures, heritages. We must teach, preach tolerance, and teach understanding. Um, there, in this life, there's life outside of Texas. There's life outside the United States, and we are all one people. Learn something new every day. That's what my mother always said. Share what you have. Take your brother's hand and your sister's hand and hold it. Hold them and help someone. Do right. Help, give, love. We are related to one another. We are different hues of color, of skin, but we are all one people. We are all one background. We may have different backgrounds, ways of life. We are one people, one nation, one people. Do not let bigotry or hatred or indifference or hatred or cloud out your vision. Do not let that bother you. Everyone wants to be treated equal. We are all one people. Love one another, be good to one another, work together, and be at peace. And that's something that I would hope that I would be able to share with everyone, that they would be able to hear these type of things and take from it. And by writing something, I want to be able to share that with them and tell them all the different things that happened. How did it happen? Why did it happen? It's so important. My mother and father both believed greatly in education. We were living through a very segregated time, and my father focused on education. He and my mother both. That was what they told us at all the times. And one time I was trying to get out of doing some homework. I never liked math, and I had about 5 more problems to do, and they were fractions. So I went and I asked my dad. There was a program that I loved to look at, Patty Duke Show. I loved the way she talked. I loved the way she dressed. And she had an English cousin who had come to visit. And I wanted to see that. So I went and asked my dad. I said, can I just go ahead and skip? I have 5 more problems to do, but I'll go back to my homework later. So my father was a philosopher. He said, well, he said, how much money do you have? I said, I have $5. Mama gave me $5 for some chore that I had done. Okay. So then he said, and who takes care of you? I said, you and mommy. He said, okay. He said, those people that you're looking at on TV, do they have a job? I said, yes, sir. He said, they make money. I said, yes. He said, so you don't have any money, right? I thought, okay, now I'm not going to get to look at my program. So I told him, I said, yes, Daddy, I don't have any money and you and Mommy take care of me. He said, okay, Daddy would love it so very much if you would go back and finish those problems, and then we'll see if you can look at your program. I wanted to die. I was like, he knows the program is only 30 minutes. So that was his philosophy, and I'm very grateful for that, because I do know that the people on television are making a whole lot of money. I worked for the federal government, and I struggled through all of the racism and things like that. But you learn to get through different things because you see people differently, and you know that people are trying to achieve something. And God has blessed us all with a talent. And I'm very grateful and thankful that I have what I have, and I'm moving forward. So I see that my time is about up, but I certainly have enjoyed speaking to you, and I hope that you enjoyed my poem. And I have many books that I've written, and I'm happy about when I have a new book that's coming out, Making a Jewel. that I've done with the Carver Literary Arts Society. And these are some of the people who have never written before. They didn't know how to write, but they have really come up with some really great stories. And my sister, especially, she's written something, my cousin. And I'll tell you this and then I'll close up. My daughter, one day was waiting for my daughter to take a nap because I wanted to cry and I didn't want her to see me crying. So I was boohooing, boohooing, boohooing. And all of a sudden I hear this little voice, Mommy, what's the matter? I thought, oh, for goodness sake. And I said, oh, Mommy's just having a hard time. I don't have any money. So she ran into the bedroom and came back with a handful of change. She said, yes, you do, Mommy. Here's some money. And that made me cry even more. I thought, oh, my God. But you have to look at the sweetness of things in life and cherish those. And I remember God, I can do all things through God who strengthens me. And I want to continue to try to do that and try to be the best that I possibly can. Be a good teacher, be a good mother, be a good sister, be a good friend. That's the only thing I can do. So, any other questions, comments?
Thank you, Antoinette, for sharing your story and your poem.
Thank you very much.
Very beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate this opportunity, and I thank you for what you're doing. This is a great opportunity to get things done. Get some new words out there and some thoughts. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. And
thank you so very much.
You're sharing your heart and your soul with us. It's what keeps us going. So thank you.
Good. And I'm happy with what you all are doing, and I hope that you continue to do what you're doing. And always remember, Matthew, that you can do all things through God who strengthens you, and as well as for you as well, Abram. You're both doing a wonderful job, and thank you. Continue to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I want to ask you because I admire your, what you've created in your life and how you've shared your passion for writing and your expression and giving that to your students and encourage them to write and how you make this practice and even with your in your dance of life and your relationship with God. But experiencing, in your upbringing, experiencing segregation, experiencing all the, the scars of this country's past. What do you say to people who have, resentment and anger and fear in their hearts, and maybe they rightfully so, who are justified in that? What do you say?
We have to pray for them, and we have to treat them. My mother was the bubble. She could walk in and meet with anybody, and she was lovable at all times. And I try to act in her capacity, but sometimes I act like my father, which, that's to be expected. He dealt with all the segregation and all the hatred. And he told me before he became 60, he had a stroke. And he said, honey, and he did not like white people. My father was very, very, we'd say he was almost racist. Okay. But he told me, he said, your daddy may have been wrong. And I was like, what? My father's never been wrong. I was like, what's wrong with you? So he said, all of his nurses, all of his doctors, everybody was Anglo, and they were very good to him. And when he said that, it really struck me because he had never had those feelings before. And he told me, he said, maybe your daddy's been wrong. And when someone can admit something like that after the situations that he had gone through, he was in the military, World War II. It was so much anger and racism going on. And he, like I said, he focused on education for all three of us. He wanted us to have an education. He wanted us to he and my mother both wanted us to be able to stand in front of people and take care of things and be about something. And that's what we were taught. And that's what I try to pass to people. And I've met many, many prejudiced, ugly, nasty people. And the good people outweigh the bad, nasty people. And it's so much of that is still going on. That's still, after looking at that George Floyd, I cried through the whole thing. It hurt me deeply to hear that man begging and pleading, please let me live. Please, I can't breathe. You hate somebody that much that you continue to do that. And when you think about the hatred that is so embedded in our community, in our lives, the first that, oh, you're so and so, I was working as a nurse's aide one time, and this lady, when I went in, she said the N word, and I turned around and walked out. So when I went back in again, she said, "Oh, please don't let them beat me up." And I really had compassion for her, and I told her, "I'm not going to let anyone hurt you." And when you can look at something like that in the face and then try to turn that around by being good to someone. That's what my mother said, that she hated those things that they used to say. We were light complected African American people. So that didn't mean that we were better than anybody else. But when you get that from both sides of the races, I had a woman who went through about my hair, my color, and my eyes. And I was like, what? I have an extraordinary mixture of people in my background. I know who I am. I'm African American. My father's grandmother was Native American, and my mother's father, his father was half Mexican, and his father was from Barcelona, Spain. My great grandmother's father was a slave master's child. So we've got Irish in our family. So, when I went to one of our family reunions one time, I asked my mother, I said, Mama, why do we have white people at our family? And she said, oh, baby, they're not white. I was like, you can't fool me. She's got blue eyes. She got blonde, so when you stop looking at what you think people are, you don't know how good and kind they can be. We have so much going on in the LGBT community. We have to love everybody. That's why when I found that poem, I said, oh, this will be perfect. We are one nation. We are one people. One people. I don't care what color, what orientation you're into, what nationality. We're all one people. And with me teaching at Lackland, I taught students from all over the world, and they were some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people, and they liked what I was teaching, and we enjoyed each other. I learned from them, from their culture, from what they were doing, and that's what people need to do. Learn something. My mother said, learn something new every day. This is what we need to do. This fighting and bickering and hatred, that's got to go. That's got to go. Because when you go into that last phase of your life and you're getting ready to die, what you going to do? You're going to tell God, he knows everything and he takes care. And see, one thing I tell people, God is in control. I don't care what you think, how you think about it, but he is in control. And when he makes you take a look at what you're doing and how you're doing it, then you're going to have to think about that. How are you treating your brothers? How are you treating your sisters? How are you treating, somebody down the street? My daughter told me one time that she was in the store and she didn't have enough money to pay for which, because she was living in Houston at that time. And she said, I was telling the lady, oh, I can't get the groceries. And she said, the lady turned around and told, oh, honey, don't worry about it. I'll pay for it for you. Now, that's paying something forward, because I had the same thing happen to me. I went to the store and I was missing some money. And I said, oh, goodness, I don't have enough. And this lady turned around. She said, oh, honey, that's okay. I've already paid for you. I almost fainted. I was like, oh, my God. So whatever you do, it's going to come back. If you do ugly, nasty things, it's coming back. You got children, grandchildren, mothers, aunts, uncles, dad, whomever. Somebody's going to have to look back and help them. Somebody's going to have to be kind to them. Be kind. Ellen DeGeneres, we look at her show all the time. I love her show. Be kind. Is it going to hurt you to be kind to someone? The thing that we're trying to do is teach is kindness and love. We came up from the generation, Marvin Gaye said, what's going on? That was during the time frame when everything was we were Vietnam and everything. But when you think about that, how is this going to affect us in the long run? I had a couple of students. One student was from Japan, and he said, oh, I don't have a culture. Miss Franklin's culture destroyed my. I was like, what? And I looked at him because he was a very young man. And I told him, I said, you know what? I was born in 1954. And I do apologize for whatever my country did. But I'm here trying to teach you something totally different. And he was like, oh, so the way that you approach people and the way you don't let something upset you. I can get upset and I can be upset, mad and angry about it. But what is it going to solve? What is it going to solve? Who is it going to hurt? Somebody will come out later on and say something ugly to my daughter or something ugly to my sister. I have family, and we had, like I said, we're only one nation. We are when God looks at us, we're all one. He don't care what you out there doing, how you did it. He loves you, and that's something that people can't understand and explain. Oh, God is in control. I was driving the other day to take something to my daughter, and this man was driving so erratically. I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh my God, I'm getting ready to get hit. And all of a sudden he pulled over, but he could have hit me and I could have not been here. So just in a twinkle of an eye, I could have been gone. And if we continue to hold on to this hatred and this anger, that's why the world is so out of control. We've got little children that are coming up in this world, and they don't know, babies don't know anything about what color you are. They know that somebody loves them. Somebody's going to give them some food and give them some milk. They have no idea about all of this other stuff. They learn that as they continue to go on. And this is what we're trying to teach and preach is love, peace, happiness, understanding, kindness. Can you be kind to somebody?
Empathy. I hear empathy in your words too. I hear empathy.
Yeah. What can we do about that? They don't like this person. They don't like that person. What does that mean? God is in control. God made every last one of us. Everybody was created by him. If we would have not gotten here, if he hadn't have said, I want this person is going to be born and I want this person to do this and that and whatever. We all have a special method that we need to follow. God is in control. That's all I can tell anybody.
There's something you're touching on that I'd like to bring Erica back in.
Mhm.
I'd actually like to get both of your feelings on this.
Mhm.
So Erica, if you're ready, I'm going to bring you back on. And in the context of it had to happen.
Mhm.
Abram brought up racism in the history of this country, not just of this country, but of the world. It's not like slavery or racism was only limited to the United States. It's a human phenomenon.
Right.
And in the context of it had to happen, and each of your own experiences with it, what is something that you see as a greater good coming out of the experience of racism?
Well, like I said, I have seen many changes and many differences of opinions, and I've had to change my opinions. Like I said, my father, the way he brought us up, and he didn't like other people a whole lot, but he was a kind man and he did good things. But with my mother was like, she told us that we were the diamonds in her life, and we meant a great deal to her. And she said that, I'll never forget, she was a nurse, and she said she had a patient, and the man had made the N-word one of his words. And she said, it made me so mad, and I was so upset about that. And she said, I was supposed to shave him. And she said, when she was getting ready to shave him, she said, I wanted to do something drastic to him, but she couldn't because of her heart, because of her kindness. And she said it really made her angry, but she said, I said a prayer for him before I did anything, and she shaved him and she didn't cut him. And, but at that point in your life, it makes you feel like you want to retaliate, but you can't. There should be a point in your life that you say, oh, I cannot do this. I cannot, like my father was 61 years old when he passed away. And when he told me that he had been wrong, I'd never heard my father say that in his whole entire lifetime. And when I got to go to school with other people, and I learned about that not everybody was nice, not everybody was nasty, but there were some very good people, very kind people. I remember when I was in grade school, when I got to St. Gerard High School, and I'd raise my hand and I wanted to answer, the woman would look out the window, and I thought, what's wrong? Why she won't answer? And I had told my mother, and she said, honey, keep raising your hand and keep trying. Don't give up. She's going to have to eventually let you. And she did, because if all of the other white students were not answering, she would ignore me completely. And I thought, wow, I never had to deal with something like that. And I've been in many, many situations where people have been nasty and ugly. And I'm like, okay, now what's the problem? Either it's because I'm a woman, because I'm black, because you don't know who I am or what I'm about. And you have to come to a point, and like you say, I say, God bless you. And see, my grandmother told me, baby, you always tell people, God bless you. You don't have to curse them. And I thought, oh, I want to curse them out. I don't want to be nice to them. She said, no, you don't want to put yourself into that level with them. And I never thought about that. You said, God bless you. And then that means, oh, you go on about your business because you got to deal with somebody else, not just me. So that's my idea about it.
Yeah.
And I could say with me, I'm more of a laid back person. I know who I am and who I belong to. So I
Mm-hmm.
was in a situation one time where I was called the N word. But
Mm-hmm.
guess what? I know that's not me. The N word actually means an ignorant person.
Yes.
So by
Yes.
you calling me that, that says nothing about me but everything about you.
Mm-hmm.
So did I want to get upset and retaliate? At first, I was like, oh, yeah, but is it
Mm-hmm.
worth it? We have to think about what we do here on earth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Abram, if you call me outside of my name, I cannot answer for you. Matthew,
Mm-hmm.
if you call me outside of my name, I
Mm-hmm.
cannot answer for you. When
Mm-hmm.
my number is called and God asks me, what did you do, daughter? He's
Yes.
not worried
Yes.
about what Abram, Matthew, or Antoinette
Mm-hmm.
did to me.
Mm-hmm.
He's worried about what I did. And God
Mm-hmm.
deals with motives. You understand? So I don't pull that race card. I don't say people treating me because I'm a black person or they would have did this to me because I'm black. Listen, I
Mm-hmm.
love me. I
Mm-hmm.
love me, and you'll love me too if you really get to know me. You
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
understand? So
Mm-hmm.
when you're attacking me, it's letting me
Mm-hmm.
know that you have issues within. There's something
Mm-hmm.
going on with you. So guess what I need to do? I need to go to God and pray. But sometimes when
Yeah.
we get in our ways and God, we tend to forget about God a little bit when things hurt us,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And you want to say those things, but you got to think about the nasty the God hung on that cross. They put
Mm-hmm.
thorns inside of his head where he was
Yeah.
bleeding, and he never said a mumbling word. So who
Mm-hmm.
are you to go ahead and try to retaliate? God says vengeance is mine. So it
Yes.
had to
Yes.
happen. And I look
Mm-hmm.
at it like that. God, go ahead, you take care of it. I don't have to
Yeah.
deal with it because I
Yeah.
got to answer you when my number is called. So
Yeah.
thank you,
That's right.
Matthew, for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, I mean, back to what you were saying earlier, Erica, it's like hurt people,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's what's interesting because it goes both ways. It's like to the oppressor. The oppressor is also oppressed by themselves,
Right. Right.
and it points. For some reason, this is put on my heart. One of my I've quoted him a million times. One of my favorite songwriters and poets is Bob Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
And from one of his songs, he says, "How many ears must one person have before he can hear people cry?" And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that really rings with what you're saying, is because
Right.
it's true, because we don't see the humanity in others. Like we don't like if we see and recognize the other as human, we're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they're hurt. Why? Like it's going to be like we want to console them, we want to comfort them. But it's
Mm-hmm.
when we don't. It's when it's with their illusions of that they're another, they're different, that we can't even see them and hear them as crying. But it's like, but it goes both ways. Like when
Mm-hmm.
you are oppressed, it's like you have twice as much work
Oh
to
yeah.
love
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's hurting you, who doesn't even see you as
Yeah.
human.
Yeah.
And it's like but when we can have, and like that's the practice of, like, and I hear in both of you is that connection, that deep relationship with God is
Mm-hmm.
like you can hear them hurting,
Mm-hmm.
even when
Right.
they're trying to hurt you. You can
Yes.
hear you don't see it as them, you see it as their hurt. And I
They're
think
hurt.
that's such a
Correct.
powerful place
Mm-hmm.
to stand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Correct. And Abram, I have to say, I remember one time I went through a drive-through, and the young lady was very rude to me. I'm talking about very, very rude to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I still placed my order. And when I got to the window, I looked at her eye to eye. I love making eye contact. And I looked at
Mm-hmm.
her. I said, "Are you okay?" she bust out crying. I had to
Mm,
go park my car, and she left the window. I had to go park my car, went into the restaurant. Went into the restroom. Come to
mhm.
find out, someone had just got murdered who she knew.
My
You know,
goodness.
what if I attacked her back?
Yeah.
Here it
Mhm,
is. I'm around here saying that I love God, but I'm attacking people. You know, so I
mhm.
went and I talked to her and I learned what was going on. And right now, today, she stay in contact with me. You
Mhm.
know, hurt people
Mm,
hurt people. It costs you nothing to be nice, but it could cost you
mhm,
everything to be nasty.
Yes.
So,
Mhm,
mhm.
mhm,
mhm.
Hurt people, hurt people,
yes,
healed people, and
that's right.
transform people,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it's so powerful. Go ahead, Matthew.
hurt people, and forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm,
it.
Mhm, mhm,
That's it.
And
mhm,
like that's to me, like that's
mhm.
it. That's it. Like um,
mhm.
Yeah.
it's not them speaking. It's not
Mhm.
them being
Mhm,
rude. It's their
Right,
pain.
right.
It's their
Mhm,
suffering. It's their fear. It's their anger. It's
mhm,
not, you know,
mhm.
they're just identified as that in that moment.
Yeah,
mhm.
it's true.
And
Very true.
that's what
That is
inspires me about King, about Gandhi, about Jesus. Is they all identify with their neighbor as themselves,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
and it's like it's like holding that space is like, and it's
Mhm,
like I know, and like that's why I mean every spiritual teaching has some version of love your neighbor as yourself, and there's a
mhm,
reason for that is because it's because it goes both ways. It's like because we also hate our neighbor as ourselves when we're not loving, and it's
mhm,
like
Right.
mhm,
it's but it's loving our neighbor is ultimately loving up ourselves.
mhm,
Like it is,
mhm,
it's like there's no distinction because if like
Yeah.
mhm.
we are not loving to our neighbor, it's like it comes back to us, back to what
Absolutely.
Right.
Antoinette was
Right.
saying. But like
Hmm.
loving our neighbor is loving ourselves, and
Mhm,
Right.
that's something that it takes patience and
mhm.
practice and empathy to, especially when somebody is their veins are filled with resentment, filled with anger, filled with
Yeah.
fear,
Mhm,
and all you want to do is just scream back at them and say like
Yeah.
that's not fair. You don't you why would you say that? But it's
mhm,
like that's what a transformed person does is
mhm.
it's like when you can experience forgiveness in the face
Yes.
of anger, in the face
Right,
of resentment,
right.
and it's like
Mhm,
when you can find peace in the face of chaos,
That's
and
mhm,
it's
it.
like that's a choice that we have in
Hmm.
every moment.
mhm,
And I
I
hear
like to
both
say,
of you there. Yeah.
yeah, it's two things that I go by: Antoinette, Matthew, and Abram. Never look at the person. Look at who the person is being used by.
mhm,
That's number
mhm,
one.
mhm,
When you utter words out your mouth, think about how would you feel if that was said to you.
uh-huh,
Put yourself in the other person's shoes. You
mhm,
understand? So I
mhm,
go by those two principles there. So if I know I haven't been hurt so much, I don't ever
mhm,
want to hurt anybody. I like to tell
mhm,
people if I can't help you, I don't want to
mhm,
hurt you. I'd rather leave your life. I don't never want to hurt you. I definitely
mhm.
want to help. So I go by those
Right.
two principles there.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
This is
That's very, very true because I think of a lot of situations that I was at a Burger King one. It was about 2 Sundays ago, and the lady in front of me, she was being really, really ugly. And by the time she got through, she had called this young girl, couldn't have been no more than 16 years old, an F and B 3 times. I thought, oh my goodness. So when I got up there, I asked the little girl, I said, honey, are you okay? She said, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I said, honey, get your manager because the lady's parking. And I said, now if I have to get out, I'll come and say, because she never said anything ugly to the lady at all. This woman was completely out of control. And she was this was a child. This girl couldn't have been no more than 16 years old. And I said, if somebody was cussing at my daughter like that, I would be really, really, and I would forget I was Christian and I would get real ugly because there's no reason for that. And when I saw that they didn't need my help, I went ahead and drove off. And I thought about that. I said, the young lady never was rude. She never was ugly. I could have seen if she retaliated back, but she didn't. And that's a remark for someone taught her very well. Maybe, whoever, her mother, father, grandmother, somebody, she knew God and she didn't put that back out there. I mean, this was a child. She was 16 years old. You know, and you're supposed to be an adult. You're an elder, and you're out here acting like something off the street. It really, it really bothered me, and I did pray for her because I thought, sister, something's wrong with you that you have to do this to someone else. Your anxiety and aggression. And I've had many women who have been raped, who have been brutally beaten and all this. And so when I told them in one class, because one young lady said she had been molested when she was very, very young. And I told her, I said, what I want you to do is I want you to write these things in a book, and you don't have to share them with anyone. I want you to get them out of your system. And if you don't want to share them, you don't have to. But this is a method of getting addressed with your anger and your hurt. And once you start out writing all that anger, by the time you get to the bottom of the page, you're in a different focus. Some of that is coming out. It's coming.
Yeah.
And if people don't know how to adjust to that and get that to assist themselves, they're still walking around angry. That person been dead for 5 or 10 years and you still mad about it. Do you want me to go dig them up and we punch them out or something? It's nothing you can do about it. I mean, can you, that person is no longer existing. Whatever they did or did not do to you, they're gone. And they've been 5 years is a long time to hold on to that type of thing. You can't go to the graveyard and dig them up and beat them up. It's not going to help anything. But we do have a lot of people that are still in that kind of capacity.
They don't know how to forgive.
No,
they don't know how to forgive, and you don't forgive for you. You don't forgive for the other person. You forgive for you because you hold unforgiveness. You block so many blessings.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
This is someone shared with me this is the best definition of resentment I've ever heard. It's you drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
Oh my
That's
God.
resentment. and I love that because it's so, and it's just like, it's the same thing with forgiveness. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person. It's like, because you're just holding on to your own pain, but you are literally choosing to stew and ruminate in hurt and pain and being one of those people who are angry at the drive-through.
It's true. It took me 20 years to forgive the person who raped me, and guess where I saw him at?
Oh my
church.
Oh my God.
Deacon at a church that I was going to.
Oh my God.
You have to get my book to read the rest. I'm not going to tell you more.
Sounds good.
So yes, the one place where you go for like to be your safe haven. And here it is. I sit up and I look on this big, huge TV, and I see this guy sitting in the deacon row, and I'm like, and I told my best friend, I say, that's the guy, one of the guys who raped me. It was actually 5, but he was the main one. And I said, that's him right there. I say, if I see him, I'm going to confront him. I'll share it. I'll go ahead and share it. After church, God made it wherein the guy was standing right at the door where I had to walk out. And as I walked out, I looked him eye to eye. He grabbed my hand and was shaking my hand. My body was cringing. Oh my God, I was cringing. And I looked him in his face and I say, do you know who I am? And he said, you look familiar, my sister. I say, do you know who I am? And he say, you look familiar. And I say, you raped me when I was 10 years old. He dropped my hand. He say, me? And I was like, yes. I called out his whole name. Whole name. And he went to bawling. And let me tell you how good God is. His wife was standing maybe 10 feet or so from us. But God did not allow her to come over to see what was going on. Hallelujah, Jesus. He made that thing between him and I because I had to forgive him. And I looked him and I say, sir, I forgive you, but I'll never forget. Abram, Matthew, and Internet, I walked away feeling so light. Things started happening for me left and
Mhm.
right. I gave him back the baggage, glory to God, that I was
Amen.
carrying
Mhm.
for him all of those years. I
Yeah.
thought about
Yeah.
all of those people that I hurt
Mhm.
because of
Mhm.
what had happened, but it
Yeah.
had to happen.
It
Glory be
happened.
to
Mhm.
God. And he gets the
Mhm.
glory. I was not going to
Mhm.
sit here and allow that man to take that from me and our God. Because what you did, you got to pay for that. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
forgive you, sir, but I'll never forget. Glory be to
Mhm.
God. Oh,
Amen.
Jesus.
Amen.
Hey,
Amen.
yes, 20 something years I held it.
Mhm.
Yes, never got counseling, not one day of counseling, not one
Mhm.
day of therapy, not one time it wasn't your fault. It's nothing that you did. None of that. None of
Mhm.
that. So
Mhm.
had it not be for God, I don't know where
Mhm.
I'll be. I
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
know where I will be. How
Amen.
dare me sit there and hold unforgiveness on my heart when God forgive me for the things that I do that nobody knows nothing about.
Mhm. Mhm.
But God sees
Wow.
all and He knows all. So who am
Amen.
I not to forgive?
Amen.
Mm.
Amen.
Oh,
Mhm.
Wow.
glory. Hallelujah.
Thank you for sharing that, Erica.
Mhm.
That's
Mm,
so incredible. It gave me the chills, you sharing
Jesus.
Oh
that.
yes.
Mm.
Thank you so much.
You're most
I wanna give both
welcome.
of you an opportunity to say any last words as we close. This has been such a powerful conversation, and I really just appreciate and honor you both for who you are in this world, the lights that you're shining, and how you've contributed to others, and how you've taken the lessons of your life and passing them forward to us and to our listeners and our viewers, and just continuing being just the shining light that you are, and sharing the gifts that you have. This is why we have this space, and just thank you. So please, I want to
You
invite
guys.
both of you to share any last words.
Well, what I'd like to say at the beginning of the year, with the ending of 2020, it was such a bad year. I went into my closet and asked God to help me forgive all the people who had hurt me. And I thought about all of these names. I didn't write them down, and it was so uplifting, because I had held on to it and held on to it, and it wasn't doing anything but making me more angry and depressed and whatever. And when I went through all of these names, and he's been taking care of everything ever since then. That's why I can tell you he is in control. I had to go to him first to ask him to help me to forgive, because I wasn't going to do that for a long time. And the feeling is so very, very uplifting to get rid of that. hmm
Yes,
And that's the
Mm,
indeed.
most important thing I can tell anybody. Let it go. Let God.
mm,
He's in control. He
mm,
knows everything.
mm.
Yes, and I
Thank
just
you,
want to thank
Erica.
You, Abram, and you, Matthew, for having me on the show today. I just want to encourage anyone that's under the sound of my voice. If you're holding on to any unforgiveness, let it go.
Let it
Like
go.
Miss Antoinette said, let go and let
And
God,
go.
and
Let
watch
go.
how things start happening for
hmm
you once you
hmm
let go. You want to be better and not bitter. So,
Yeah,
I
Mm,
mean,
definitely.
I mean, I do a lot of I share a lot of my testimonies. I don't have a problem with telling what happened because it had to happen, So
mm,
I just want to encourage you. You have to find a way. If you could write it down, if you want to
hmm
confide in someone, however you see fit, get it out now. But
hmm
Matthew, God is dealing with me. I
hmm
see something on you, and I don't want to
hmm
share it on the show. But you got to know that you know that you know. Don't
hmm
give up. Do not look back. It's nothing in your past that
That's right.
defines you. You are more than enough. You are
hmm
more than a conqueror. You could do all things through Christ who strengthens you.
Amen.
So you
Amen.
keep on smiling because that smile that you give up, it lights
hmm
up a room. I don't even
That's
know
right.
you, but I know what you're doing
I
right
know.
now. Just that
Mhm.
smile. So thank you guys for having me.
mm. Thank you. And you said it. Forgiveness is one of the best
Mhm.
gifts we can give ourselves and others in the world, really, because it's the
Exactly.
space that
Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's 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 creating from a new not by what the past has clouded and shaped and colored. It's creating anew from a blank canvas, and where we can, as we were saying earlier with Erica, where we can plant seeds and and like Antoinette was sharing, where we can express ourselves in our writing and in our with our gifts. And this is a practice that we all have available, and the choice that we all make in each and every present moment. So thank you so much. Matthew, any last words?
Yeah, just real quick on the subject of forgiveness. The hardest person that I ever had to, or the most difficult time I ever had forgiving anyone was forgiving myself. You know, and it's not just me now, it's me as that little boy who thought that something meant something else. And because of that, I started living a life that wasn't mine. You know, just one small example was watching my best friend, like change because of the relationship he had with a woman in middle school, and decided that I didn't want to be that. Like I didn't want to change the way he changed, and so that kid in that moment chose to be an observer of the world instead of participate and create in the world.
Wow.
And it took me until it's just like 2 or 3 years ago when I realized that I had been living as an observer because of the choice that I made at that age, that long. And to forgiving him for that, because he didn't know any better. That was the best choice he made with the information he had. So,
Powerful.
Yeah, forgiveness is one of the most powerful practices I've ever encountered, and I thank both of you for your capacity to forgive and for sharing just your testimony and your stories, and being able to just be with that despite everything else that's happened, despite everything that's happened in the face. So thank you both.
Thank you again so much. Really, it's just an honor and our privilege to have both of you. And
thank you so much.
We'd love to have you back again soon. Antoinette, you can share some more poems, and Erica, share some more of your wonderful stories and overcoming of all the amazing light that you shine. We'd love to have more.
Okay, well, that sounds great. I'll be more than happy to. I've got lots of poems.
Wonderful.
Lots of stories.
Sounds great. Well, thank you both. It's been a pleasure to have you. Wonderful.
Likewise. Thank you.
And God bless all of you.
Love you, ladies.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you all at home for tuning in with us. Again, I want to invite you to be a part of this virtual stage. Share your story. There's something on the other side. I mean, I remember the first time I shared on the stage, and I was afraid. And it's impactful for our listeners, but it's also very impactful for the people who are sharing, because there's something on the other side of our fear, of our being vulnerable, or our being authentic, that allows. It's like something beneath it that shines through when we don't let our situation knock us down. We aren't the fear of what's happened to us, when we can see our pain and not be it. And there's something that's so powerful when we can share what we've been through, and not let it control us, not let it dictate our actions, not let the future be dictated by the past that we're carrying and is molded by all the things that happened to us. And it's the peace that's available from the other side of that. I want to invite you. And, this is what One Day is about. And our vision is humanity rising in a connected world, with each person's unique gifts, genius, and contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. Thank you again to Antoinette and to Erica for being with us. I love you all. Be safe, be well. And as always, one day is today. We'll see you next week. Peace, everybody.